Funky Transmutations.
So I first met Nate Chapman in graduate school at the Department of Sociology at Virginia Tech, Blacksburg, Virginia. Nate had been in the program for a couple of years, a few years before I'd gotten there. And he was one of the first people that I met that I thought, this could definitely be a really close friend. And, as it turned out that we were really good friends. We still are to this day. And Nate and I would work a lot together. We'd keep each other kind of productive and inspired, and we would go get coffee and beer. And we were interested in very similar things: popular music, culture, good food. And yeah, I was really fortunate to meet Nate and, develop this friendship that we've cultivated for, 8 years now. I don't even know. How long has it been, man?
I first met Slade when we were students in the sociology graduate department at Virginia Tech. We bonded pretty much immediately after, I begged him to come out for some beers because there was no one else in the department that I really made a friendship connection on anything outside of sociology. But Slade and I quickly found that we were both interested in music, movies, film, art, those sort of things. So our common interests brought us together, and just having a buddy to go through the struggles of graduate school with.
Some of my earliest memories of music were definitely some stuff that my dad would play on his turntable and on his CD player. He had a ton of CDs and a pretty nice vinyl collection as well. He still does. And he would play some heavy, edgy stuff for my friends whenever they would come over. Bands like Black Sabbath and Jefferson Starship. And he was really into bands like Triumph and Nazareth and Foghat, just some classic rock that they're not unknown, but they're just artists that you don't hear a lot about whenever you think of bands like classic rock. The Guess Who comes to mind. But one of my memories, one time my friend Ryan was over. We were maybe 12, and my dad is a prankster. He's a real trickster. And what he did was he went back to our laundry room and cut off all the power to the house, except on the circuit where the CD player was plugged in. And he turned on Black Sabbath's Iron Man. And, the beginning, I am Iron Man, that comes on. And we were freaking out. We were also nervously giggling, and we were running and trying to hide. And we heard him saying that from the laundry room, I am Iron Man. And then he would stomp up the stairs and he would come get us. And it was a lot of fun. He made heavy music really accessible and really fun for us 11 or 12-year-olds. So I would say that my father was definitely hugely influential in getting me into music. He actually bought me my first bass guitar as I think it was a Christmas gift. And it was awesome. It was this Squier P bass that I still have to this day. In fact, we're working on it right now. We're repainting it and kind of restoring it.
I first started listening to music, what I can remember was as a child, was a lot of, Motown kind of stuff with my mom, oldies on the way to school. My aunt, though, had a 1987 Monte Carlo that she would take us to the mall in on the weekends, and she had James Brown's greatest hits. So, funky kind of stuff has always been my sort of thing that I've just been drawn to, just to feel the groove. So some of that from the Motown and whatnot. My dad owned one cassette tape, Best of the Doobie Brothers, so I got into classic rock a lot for a while. And then in the mid-90s, my friend's older brother listened to Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, more alternative stuff. So I kind of got exposed to some of that then, and also listening to hip-hop on my own too, Outkast and some of the G-funk kind of stuff, the more funky, melodic kind of hip-hop and rap.
That bass is still in the family, and that really kind of allowed me to start playing in my first band, which was called, my first band, I was 13, we were called No Comply. We were a punk band, but not because necessarily we liked punk, but because, it only takes 2 or 3 chords. And we would play in my garage, my friend Philip and I. And eventually I started playing bass in other bands, and we got a little bit more serious about it. We would play a lot of shows in our local scene in Western Pennsylvania. there was a thriving music scene in this little kind of rural enclave in western Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, and lots of fun shows. We would often play at Elks clubs, VFWs, community centers, and it was just so much fun. So I guess I first started getting serious about music maybe not until after high school. Maybe in college, I joined a band called the Pax Cecilia. Hey, what? They had been established for several years before I joined that band, and we recorded an album together. We wrote and recorded an album together, and we went on a few little mini tours, and we played a lot of shows in Western Pennsylvania, but also in the Rochester area where we. Hey, stop it. We played a lot of shows in Rochester, upstate or Western New York area as well. Very fond memories of those times. Kent, Dan, John, Greg, if you're seeing this, miss you guys, love you, hope you're all doing well.
I started playing music when I was in 6th grade on trombone. I played in concert band and marching band, first chair my entire career, but for some reason on the last day of school, my senior year, I put my trombone away for the last time and I never picked it back up. So I'd always wanted to fill that void after that day by finding some sort of musical outlet.
I never considered myself a drummer. I played drums in this really bad, at the time we called it like a grindcore band, but it was a kind of a joke band. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want anybody looking it up. Chris, you obviously know. Kara, you know. But I was never a drummer. I never played drums in any other bands. I played bass and I played guitar in all of the musical acts that I was a part of. And I mostly just like to play drums in my free time. They're a very cathartic instrument for me. I like to smack them. I like to take breaks when I'm working now and just go down to my little home studio and play. I don't really know how to read drum music. I don't really know how to play a lot of rudiments. I don't know a lot of the kind of technical aspects of drumming. I more play sort of what I'm feeling. And I also imitate and emulate people a lot. So if I hear a beat or a band or an artist or a drummer that I really like, then I just usually emulate them and then put my own twist on it.
I first started playing drums in undergrad. My roommate had a kit and I just sit down and kind of beat around on it. And some friends of mine thought it'd be funny to do this like art piece kind of thing. So we started a fantasy progressive rock band called the Pawns of Time. And we played one gig at the Student Union. It was in a Chick-fil-A at College of Charleston. And we were not invited back on stage for our second set. But from that, I knew I wanted to play drums and wanted to get better. So when I went to grad school and met Slade and our advisor, Dr. Brunsma, David Brunsma, we started jamming around and didn't really have a kit, so eventually we decided we wanted to get kind of serious and write some tunes. So I got a Tama Imperial Star kit, just a little 4-piece kit. All the cymbals and hardware came with it, nothing fancy. Then when I moved to Arkansas, where I live now, for my first assistant professorship, I started playing music with a couple guys here, and we started a band called Black Sabbatical, since we're all professors, and do more like harder, groovier, riffy rock kind of covers. But I knew I wanted to be better and not be the one guy in the band holding everybody back. So I started getting a lot more serious. I started practicing rudiments. I got a new drum kit that was all mine, my own cymbals. So I was no longer borrowing anybody's stuff anymore, their gear, and it really inspired me, made me a little bit more confident in my sound and my ability. So now I play on a Yamaha Tour Custom 5-piece kit with 2 rack toms, a 10 and a 12, 16-inch floor, 22-inch kick. I've got all Zildjian A custom cymbals, so medium, thin, crashes, 16, 18-inch, 18-inch medium, thin, sizzle, crash, 10-inch thin, splash, 20-inch medium ride, and 14-inch thin hi-hats. Playing on a couple different snare drums right now, just depending on the sound or how I'm feeling that day. I have a 1990s Ludwig Acrolite and Black Galaxy finish. And I also have a DW Performance Series in white marine finish. That's an all maple drum. So been getting a lot more serious, taking some lessons, continuing to work on rudiments, just trying to work on my technique and be a better drummer.
Oh, I want to talk about my kit that I play. It's a Franken kit for sure, in every sense of the word. Parts of it came from here, parts of it came from there. I'm currently playing a 13-inch rack tom. It's a Ludwig Champagne Sparkle from, I believe maybe it was what are they called? Club Star, Swing Star. I also play a Ludwig snare. It's 1970s Acrolite. It's my dream snare. I know they're a dime a dozen. They're everywhere, but I love that snare. I also play a kick drum that was previously Philip Limerick's. We used it to record on 100,000 Million. It was rewrapped. I'm not sure what it is. It's a slime green kit or slime green kick, and it's just thunderous and boomy. It sounds good. It's probably a Tama Imperial Star, I would guess. And speaking of Philip, I also play several of his old cymbals. He's got 14-inch Zildjian master sounds that I play. They're great hi-hats. You gotta crank them though if you want to get a good sound going. You really gotta hit them hard. I play a cracked and damaged K Custom. It's a dark ride. I've got a Sabian AAX crash cymbal. I have a really special crash cymbal that I won in a drum competition, which I'm going to upload a video about my drum credentials soon, so be on the lookout for that. And I play a really shitty throne. I play a mixed match of sticks, usually pretty thin. And I usually, well, not usually, but sometimes I flip them and play the handle ends first. But yeah, I'm currently in the process of restoring a matching kick drum that goes with the 1958 Ludwig Champagne Sparkle. So I'm going to add that to my arsenal soon. Yeah, that's my kit. I'll do another kit rundown where I can actually look at the kit and reminisce about it. So in terms of my favorite drummers, drum influences, drum inspirations, Philip Limerick is very high up on my list. Philip is a personal friend of mine, and in fact, I recently did an interview with him, which will be posted to this channel hopefully within the next week or so. We played in a lot of bands together. Phenomenal drummer, very creative, very technical, lots of speed, lots of power, and just a lot of energy. And I watched Philip kind of develop from not knowing how to hold drumsticks to being someone who I deeply, deeply respect behind the kit. Another drummer who really inspired me was Greg Austin from the Pax Cecilia, who I played with from about 2006 to, I don't know, 2010-ish. I just remember the first show before I joined the band seeing, because we all played in similar venues and similar shows. We all ran in similar circles. And I just remember the first time seeing Greg play, seeing the Pax Cecilia play. Greg was the first thing I noticed. At the time, he had this massive kit, this racked out kit with this snare drum. It was a maple, it might have even been a piccolo snare. But that thing was tuned so high, and it would just crack, and it would just ring through entire spaces. It was really cool. And he also had some cool auxiliary percussion that you didn't ever see in metal or heavy music. He had chimes and, you know, just other auxiliary percussions that he would use very sparingly, but it was also tasteful. And he always brought a subtlety into his drumming. So I can't list my favorite drummers without talking about Greg. Greg still plays. He plays in a band called Glowworms. They're from Pittsburgh. Check them out. I also got to mention John Syverson from the band Daughter, a really technical drummer, a fast drummer, but also a super creative drummer. The work that he does with his toms is just really awesome, and I love the beats, particularly early Daughters.
I think how the sinner, wrongdoer, evildoer, worker of iniquity, the transgressor, a bad example, scoundrel, villain, miscreant, viper wretch, the devil incarnate, a monster, demon, fallen angel, murderer, and thief.
Just phenomenal stuff. Go check out Canada Songs or Hell Songs, the self-titled, and actually just go listen to their whole discography. Great band. In terms of non-heavy drummers who don't play heavy music, Kevin Parker from Tame Impala comes to mind. Not so much that I enjoy kind of his compositions or his fills or what he does behind the kit. I appreciate more the sound, the sonic realms that he goes into with his drums. They're usually highly compressed, they're usually pushed to the limit, and they just fit. They just work with the music. And to me, that's a really important part of drumming is how well they fit with what they're doing. I also really enjoy the drums of a band called Dunyan. They have that kind of ringy jazz open feel, almost like John Bonham sort of thing. I can never achieve that sound myself. I like a more muted, kind of dead tom sound, but he really pulls it off. He really sounds good.
My main drumming influences sort of come from those moments in my musical life. Mainly, you know, the funky side of it, the harder rock side, and some of the more technical stuff. So my main influence is probably John Bonham, just the power that he played with, the Bonham triplets in particular, just something I was always drawn to in music, and just the sound of his drums and his you know, ferocity playing the drums. Neil Peart was also an influence for me as well, more like his technical ability and just his creativeness to write such complex music and these progressive time signatures and things like that. The song Tom Sawyer in particular, that drum intro, is something that will forever be etched into me and my memory, and certainly something that I strive to be able to play with the technical precision that he did. During the 90s and listening to Smashing Pumpkins, Jimmy Chamberlin was a huge influence on me. I loved the speed and the power he could play with, but his creativity as well. So he was almost like a blend of Neil Peart and John Bonham for me. Really cool, awesome beats and just the power of the drums and really challenging stuff.
Stay tuned for more content. Peace out. Was that bad?